There is a long list of sports leagues in the world that would kill to have a face as marketable as Caitlin Clark, and the WNBA needs it more than almost all of them. The W was lucky enough to get her, and all the league had to do was not screw up. But many fans can't believe just how many times the WNBA did exactly that in the past several months. So much so that we have to ask, is the WNBA sabotaging Caitlin Clark?
Conversation about women's basketball, conversation on should Caitlin be on the U.S. women's national team. You were part of the selection group.
A lot of players I've already had the opportunity to play in this league that are just so good.
On the surface, it makes no sense. After all, by sabotaging Clark, the WNBA would be sabotaging the greatest chance it ever had at gaining mainstream popularity. But the answer is not as straightforward as you may think. Before we examine how Clark is pushing the WNBA forward in spite of being essentially sabotaged, we need to go back in time and look at the state of the league before her arrival. The WNBA is not a healthy league. They are bleeding money every year. There hasn't been a single profitable season in their 28-year existence, and there's no way they'd be able to continue operating without subsidies of around $10 million that the NBA provides every year. According to Adam Silver, the WNBA loses over $10 million every year. At the end of the day, the WNBA is a business. Strange as it may sound, a lack of profits can be tolerated as long as the league is showing an adequate growth rate, and the WNBA has actually grown quite a bit since Adam Silver made that statement in 2018. While the attendance numbers hadn't changed much, TV viewership in 2023 more than doubled compared to 2018. The problem is with converting those new eyeballs into enough revenue for the league. Caitlin is the most well-known and marketable female college basketball player of all time. A large majority of her fans have followed her to the WNBA. One thing that will determine if those fans translate into recurring paying customers for the league is whether their fandom of Caitlin Clark will translate into fandom of the WNBA. The league management and its star players made two key mistakes that are going to make the transition difficult for many fans.
I want to really kind of have her name in that, but I mean, she's always going to be a great player for Iowa and for the game as a whole. But yeah, winning one is pretty huge in college. So
remember how NBA stars talked about some of the most hyped incoming prospects in the last few years, like Zion or Wemby? They gave them their flowers, hyping them up and praising their skills.
On a consistent basis, they'll be a dangerous team. Right now, they're going to be up and down. Ingram has always played like that. I like Valanciunas, but I agree with Chuck. Zion is the wild card. Once he learns how to make an impact on the game, like I said earlier, dominate.
In short, a complete opposite of how some of the biggest WNBA stars talked about Caitlin before the draft, downplaying her achievements and questioning her credentials.
Do you think about Ice Cube and the Big Three offering Caitlin Clark $5 million to play in their league?
Well, I have a lot of thoughts. But the first one is, so you offered the contract to a player who's not yet even in the WNBA. Big Three does not happen during overseas season, so that doesn't make sense.
That's true.
And then for us to get just constantly shit on, you can't even acknowledge the growth and how amazing the WNBA is doing because shit like this happens.
When
you didn't even have to bring up the W. If you're gonna say that it's for that, then stand on that. But I don't think I think he's trying to make a business decision, which he's a businessman, that makes sense. But to mask it in this, I want to uplift and support WNBA players and women athletes is kind of a cop-out, I think, and I don't think it really makes any sense.
You probably remember the infamous Reality is Coming segment from Diana Taurasi on SportsCenter. Diana wasn't the only example of this, but she is by far the best representative for the greater problem. That created some immediate resentment for the WNBA's old guard among Caitlin's fans. Granted, Diana changed her tone after getting beaten by Clark on several occasions, but the bad first impression remains. There's a general impression that the old guard is jealous of the attention that Caitlin and a few other rookies are getting. To be fair to them, it's difficult not to be jealous when you spend years building a career and struggling for recognition, only to see some new face come in with endorsements and more fans than you ever had. But that's not doing the league any favors. If that perception continues, there's a real danger of actively turning Caitlin's fans against the WNBA, and that isn't going to be good for the long-term health of the league. There is an impression that the league as a whole actually supported the old guard in gatekeeping Caitlin Clark, and that impression isn't entirely unfounded. Caitlin has been on the receiving end of some extremely hard fouls over her short WNBA career. The best example came from the first matchup between the Fever and the Sky, where Kennedy Carter hit Caitlin in the back.
Kennedy Carter now with 12 points off to Clark.
There's no putting it nicely. This was a cheap shot and a dirty play.
It It was a cheap shot.
Yet the Sky bench celebrated it. Worst of all, it was deemed a common foul on the floor. Sure, the league upgraded it to a flagrant one after the game, but Carter wasn't fined or suspended at all, so nothing really came of it. This should have easily been deemed a flagrant 2, but the WNBA sent a clear message that they have no interest in protecting the new face of their league. Don't get me wrong, do I think there should be special rules in place to protect Caitlin Clark? Absolutely not. There shouldn't be any special treatment for any player in the league, but there should be punishments for dirty plays that could have resulted in significant injury. The general response to media questions about the incident makes you question if the WNBA is ready for the explosion in fan interest from a PR perspective. Kennedy bluntly refused to answer any Caitlin Clark questions after the game.
Kind of on the play before bumping in with Caitlin, it seemed like she turned to you a little bit after the fever
I
score.
answer no Caitlin Clark questions.
A reporter tried to get a statement from her a few days later, but Carter and her teammates accused the reporter of harassing them.
Miss Carter, have you gotten a chance to reach out to Caitlin?
Hey, man, come on with that.
Relax. Have you gotten a chance to reach out to Caitlin?
Unfortunately, the video of the interaction got nuked from Twitter, but the reporter seemed pretty respectful during the recorded interaction. On the other hand, Caitlin has handled her media interactions with veteran poise. She says all the right things and doesn't show much frustration with what other players have thrown at her. Colin Cowherd also criticized the WNBA for giving the Indiana Fever what he called a difficult early season schedule instead of letting Clark spread her wings against less challenging opponents. That might make sense on the surface, but it would be clear favoritism. So let's see if the WNBA wronged Clark in any way with her opening schedule. In the first 10 games, Indiana faced 5 sub-500 teams and 5 over 500 teams. So how does that stack against the first 10 games of the NBA's most hyped rookies of the past few years, Zion and Wemby? Even if Zion missed the start of his rookie season due to injury, his Pelicans went up against 8 teams with winning records in the season prior and just 2 sub-500 teams. Wemby had a similar start to his season, facing 7 winning teams and 3 sub-500 teams. While Cowherd's intentions may have been good, the data doesn't support any claims of sabotage here. But it's a nice example to highlight how the media is talking about the WNBA more than ever before, thanks in large part to Caitlin Clark. The first few games of the WNBA season have blown past previous TV viewership and attendance records. Not a single team managed to crack over 10,000 average fans for home games last season. The Las Vegas Aces came close with an average home attendance of 9,500, and the average team saw around 6.6 thousand fans per game. This year, multiple games had to be moved to larger arenas to accommodate all the fans. Average TV viewership is approximately 1.3 million per game, almost tripled from the year before. More than half of all these games were sold out, and merch sales are up an incredible 236% from last year. Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and Cameron Brink are among the top 5 for jersey sales, so the interest is clearly surging. Global interest allowed the NBA to become the juggernaut it is today, and the WNBA should start attracting a foreign audience if it wants to maximize its marketing and revenue potential. The NBA's first step toward global expansion came with the 1992 Dream Team and the Barcelona Olympics. With the Paris Olympics in 2024, there was no better opportunity to get Caitlin in front of a global audience. But when the Team USA roster was announced, her name was not on the list.
Minutes ago, Caitlin Clark not making the Olympic team despite leading all rookies in points.
To say that both the fans and the media were surprised would be an understatement. There was a lot of questions, and the answers weren't great. Granted, the WNBA doesn't choose the roster, USA Basketball does, but parts of the WNBA have a lot of input on these decisions. Rumors quickly started that some of the most influential players, allegedly led by Taurasi, conspired to keep Caitlin away from the roster. The official reason was that Team USA was concerned with how Caitlin's many fans would react to the low amount of playing time she would get on a stacked team. Needless to say, the answer only fueled the conspiracy theories. There is zero doubt that Team USA is going to win gold. Substituting any player on the team for Caitlin would not change that. International basketball fans know her, but time zones make it difficult for many of them to tune into WNBA games. Putting her on the international stage would be a golden opportunity to present Caitlin and the rest of the WNBA's top talent to a huge global audience, and the WNBA missed that chance. Caitlin took the snub in stride, saying that this would only motivate her to work harder to make the team in 2028. But she would face and beat the Olympic team alongside her fellow WNBA All-Stars. The US will still take home the gold medal, but the result of that game made already poor optics of the situation even worse. Some ships have sailed, and the WNBA can't erase its past mistakes, so we need to ask if it's already too late to learn from them and fix them. Not yet. Caitlin's legend only continues to grow. So will her rivalry with Angel Reese, especially if they manage to turn their teams into championship contenders. Her fans will continue to follow her. Nike is also behind her and will continue to support her in the future. But the WNBA will have to accept the next generation is here, and they should open the floodgates instead of trying to hold the tide. Fan interest and media interest will feed off of each other, so neither Clark nor the WNBA is going to disappear from the public discourse anytime soon, especially with the new TV deal bringing the league to new broadcasting and streaming partners. While not as big of a stage as the Olympics, global audiences should get to see Caitlin on the international stage when the next Women's Basketball World Cup kicks off in 2026. weeks. Injury is the only thing that can keep Clark off the roster if she keeps up her insane level of play. Caitlin will deliver, and the WNBA will get to decide its own destiny in the next couple of years. But what do you think? Has the WNBA already sabotaged itself by sabotaging Caitlin Clark, or is there still time to salvage the situation? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video if you liked it, and subscribe to the channel for more. See you in the next video.